Hello, and thanks for joining us for 5 Miles Easy, where we go behind the scenes on the highs, lows, and uphill battles on our running journeys and bring you conversations to inspire, motivate, and get you one step closer to your goals.
So let's lace up for 5 Miles Easy. If you want to up your running game with a runner coaching plan, you can get 2 weeks free with the code 5 miles. That's the number 5, the word miles, on the Runner coaching app.
Thank you for joining us for 5 Miles Easy. We are back together in the studio. Welcome back, Rose.
Woo! Fresh off the plane. I have literally landed, a couple of hours ago. So, but my first stop at the studio. So it is great to be back. Yeah, absolutely got my priorities right.
So happy to have you back. So this is the final episode of season 1 that we're recording today.
I know, I can't believe it. How have we got through 10 episodes?
Yeah, it's gone so quickly, but really enjoying doing it. So really excited to see what season 2 holds. Lots of new things.
But before we get there, final episode today is going to be answering some of our listener questions. So thank you very much for all of our listeners who have sent them in. We had some great questions coming in and can't wait to get through them today.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So the first question we're going to ask, though, is something that we like to ask all our guests, and that is, Rose, what is your why when it comes to running?
I cannot believe we haven't answered this yet. We've asked so many people, so about time we answered it. My why when it comes to running, it's kind of evolved over the years, and it very much started out as something that I just did for kind of health, physical and mental health. It was my way of getting fit, and also just de-stressing from work. It would be the thing that I used to commute a lot to the office, and it was such a good way of kind of clearing my head before work. And afterwards, if I'd had a bad day, anything like that, it's just such a good de-stressor. So that was really what running started as for me. And then it kind of evolved into a real social thing when I moved to London and joined my first running club, Clapham Chasers. And I started going to the sessions, met some really good friends there, and just it became this real, I'll go as much for the social element as the fitness element in the sessions. I wasn't terribly consistent with them, mainly because of work, but yeah, it was just such a fun, all-inclusive thing to do, and that kind of got me into doing some of the competitive elements as well. Bit of cross country. I didn't do any track, but cross country, road races, things like that. So kind of morphed into, added on the social element, and then it kind of evolved again during COVID when I started to train properly. I saw a real improvement very quickly, and I think during that time, it just became this really exciting challenge. It was something completely different. I'd just got out of the corporate world for a few months whilst I was on garden leave, and I just got absolutely hooked on this challenge to see how fast I could get. And it was kind of exploring how much I could do in this 3 months and how quick I could get. And then obviously when I saw the progression and then went back to work, but carried on training and carried on with a structured program and kind of chasing the goals. It really was this almost scientific experiment to just see how far I could push my body.
Yeah.
And then of course now in my pro career after I signed with Puma, I think a huge amount of it is just the incredible opportunities, and it's about following the funnest route of life I can find, just loving what I do, and yeah, just going on all the camps, saying yes to as much as I can in the running world, and kind of just doing as many cool things as I can, whilst running as a job, which still sounds insane to me. But I think that's kind of how it's evolved, and I've still got all those original whys for running, but I've just built on them throughout the years. But I think, my core one really is about kind of the opportunities and just having fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's so important, isn't it? Because as you've shown, at the moment you're having so much fun with it and it's bringing you so much success. And I think if you can do what you love and your job in a way that makes you really enjoy it, then you're going to get more out of it.
Totally. And it's not, especially when you're running at, a high level and training is important to you, and so you do it every day. Not every day is going to be great.
No.
And you're going to go through rough patches. But if you have that like good solid why of doing it for the fun of it, it will get you through the rough patches. Because even on a bad day, I'm like, well, I'm still doing something I love and still having fun. So yeah, totally.
Exactly.
I think it's so important to get the results. Like, you've got to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's yours? What's your why for running?
So mine's also definitely evolved over the years as well. When I first started running, it was as a teenager, very much competitively. It was at a time where I was wanting to be a part of every sports team in the school and just very competitive. So running to me was another competitive sport, and that's just how I saw it. It's like, right, I want to do the best I can in this. But I think that kind of links to maybe how it has evolved as well in terms of getting the most out of myself, because that's just grown with me. But I think maybe as I went to uni, and then when I left uni, I was studying for my accountancy qualification. When I started working, running to me then gave me a bit of structure and some headspace from stress of studying, working, whatever. So that kind of became my why as well. It was like an outlet, and I realized like running was more than just competing with other people. It was really good for my mind. And then sort of combining those together, that's still very much the case for me. It does give me that structure. It is really good for my head. It is still a competitive sport. I still want to try and get the most out of myself. And I think that's the reminder. But like you, I absolutely love it, and I have so much fun with it that it's probably why I'm still going today, and why I think I'm going to be running for years to come, because it's just so enjoyable. But yeah, I think so. This is something that I've said to you before that is really, really cringeworthy, but I think it's really true, is that like running's like another friend to you, right? So
yeah, I love that. It's so true.
It's like, it's just always there for you. It's waiting for you. It's like non-judgmental. You might be injured, you might not be able to run at some point, but it's going to be there for like when you're ready to be able to face it again. And I just think, yeah, it is like a friend. I'll be up like running on my own, and you kind of feel like you've almost got company because you're doing something you love.
You up.
Yeah.
Like, however bad you feel. In fact, I think Jack Rowe said this is his why. You're always going to feel better after a run.
Yeah, exactly. And it's guaranteed. So yeah, I think lots of whys, but it's like what you said, it's always important on those bad days to remind yourself what your whys are, because ultimately we do it because we really enjoy it and we get loads out of it. And so just reminding yourself of that.
Yeah, totally. When you used to just do it as competition, did you actually enjoy it then?
Yeah, I really did, because it was at a time where I was getting better, because it was, when you're starting running, you have like a base level and you start training, you're getting faster. So not only was it competition against other people, it's like competition against yourself, because you're wanting to get PBs. So yeah, I really did enjoy it then as well. So I don't think there's really been a time where I've actually hated running. There've been tough patches with it, but I think my why's always been there. So I've always enjoyed it.
And speaking of racing, that leads us nicely onto our first listener question, which is, what is your favourite race that you've done and why?
This is such a hard one, because, as I just said, I've been competing since I was a teenager, so I couldn't even tell you the number of races I've done in my life. And there have been some really enjoyable ones, whether it's cross country, road, maybe I wouldn't say I've had many enjoyable track races, so we can easily rule that out. But it's a really strange one because I feel like my answer, you would expect my answer to maybe be a race where I've had a really good race or like got a PB or I've won the race. And those ones are definitely up there. But in terms of the race experience itself, I would say my favorite race is London Marathon. And I've done it twice, and both times it's not gone well for me personally. But the atmosphere at the London Marathon, I just think there's nothing like it. Like you can experience it as a spectator and it's deafening, but when you experience it as someone that's running, it's just, it's overwhelming. And I think the fact that I've struggled in both times I've done London Marathon, the fact that I've still managed to almost enjoy it because the crowds are just pushing you along. I just think like, if I felt like that in any other race, I just don't think I could have got to the end.
And there's something so special about racing in your home streets,
I think that's it. Yeah, it is a bit of that as well. But I just think, it's such an incredible event.
Yeah, so. And that's a real testament to London that you still loved it so much, even if it didn't go well for you.
Yeah, I did. So you can always take the positives.
Yeah, it is such a good one.
And what about you? I can only maybe imagine, given recent events.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago was incredible. Having said that, I totally agree with you on London. And there is something really special about doing London Marathon and it being on home streets and kind of having so many friends and family there. But I have to say, Chicago atmosphere as an elite was better because you run with other people. So I think London, the crowds, having friends and family there is incredible, but you as an elite, I've always ended up by myself for the last kind of 10, 12K. Yeah. But Chicago was so much fun because it was a real race with people, and I actually haven't had that in that many races. And it just brought a whole different dimension to it, especially in the last 5-7K when I was chasing people down. I was just having the best time. Yeah. And the crowds were really good. There weren't any quiet patches, apart from the end, weirdly, because they actually stopped crowds for security. Okay. But apart from the last few hundred meters, it's the crowds are out in force. It was such a fun day. And I think having had a good training block, it was also a bit of, wanting it to all come together, because I felt a lot of people had put into that and worked hard for it. So it was, definitely rewarding feeling. Yeah, the most kind of rewarding race I've done.
Awesome. Okay, we've got a question that's specifically for you. How did your training change to take 20 minutes off your PB? I think it was 25, but this is when you went from 2:55 PB to 2:30 at the time.
Yeah, honestly, pretty much everything changed. It was a bit of a bottoms up approach, and if I'm honest, I wouldn't exactly recommend doing this, because it was very much a 0 to hero strategy. But I firstly ran a lot more. I think when I was working, I was running about kind of 35 miles a week, and most of it was easy mileage, very unstructured. I would just make the club sessions that I could make, and some weeks, if I didn't have deals on, it would be, I'd be at 2 sessions a week, and then I wouldn't go for 4 weeks. So it was very unstructured. And then when I was made redundant, had 3 months garden leave, I could literally train as much as I wanted. So I ran a lot more. I started doing 3 sessions a week and better long runs. And I had time. That was the real key thing here. I had the time to do it. So I wouldn't say it's a very risky approach building up that quickly. And I did get some injuries, but it did get me fast quickly because I survived it.
Yeah. So we'll caveat it with, don't increase your mileage.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, let's go with that. But it does sometimes work.
So, Steph, you got Frankfurt coming up in just over a week. So, here's a good question to prep you for this. Pre-race nerves, how do you deal with them?
This is a good one. So I think this has also changed over the years. If I think back to when I was younger competing, when you're kind of just like not really aware of what feelings mean, you just have them, and so you don't question them. So I think, like back when I was younger, yes, of course you get nervous before you race, but you're not thinking, oh no, why am I nervous? You deal with it. As soon as the gun goes, you've got no option, but you've got to run, and that's fine. Then I think maybe as I've got a bit older and I've raced more, you can feel a bit overwhelmed by the nerves, and you're aware you have them, maybe question them a bit. But I'm at a point now where recognizing nerves are just a feeling, and nerves are normal. They're important as well. And they're going to help you perform. They give you adrenaline. They mean you care. So yeah, just not questioning nerves. You're going to feel nervous, and like that's just a fact. So don't think about it. Get yourself in a good relaxed state on the start line, and when the gun goes, you're going to run. It's not going to change anything.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I'm pretty similar. I just try and I think it's all about reframing it. And you can think of that feeling, the butterflies in your stomach and everything is, oh, I'm really nervous. I'm like, okay, my body's getting ready for this.
Yeah.
It knows it's got a job to do. It knows it's going to work hard. Yeah. And we're just getting ready. And it's excitement and it's adrenaline and it's what's going to carry me through the race. So I think it's just all about reframing. And as you said, not overthinking what that feeling means and how nervous you should be.
Yeah.
And just going with it.
Yeah, because in a normal day-to-day, you have so many different feelings that you don't necessarily question. I always think, you might feel really happy and excited, and you're not thinking, why do I feel happy? Why do I feel excited? You go through these waves of emotion, and that's just fine. Like, they're just emotions.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, this is a good one. How do you approach drinking alcohol during marathon training? Do you do it?
I would say I take a fairly balanced approach with socializing, going out. I mean, I'm not a huge drinker anyway. And during marathon training, I definitely pare it down. But I don't go teetotal, never go out, don't socialize, because personally, I find I need that element to be able to give 100% to my training. Not having that would be too much sacrifice, and I would start kind of resenting my training and not be able to go into it with, my best head on. So I'll have a glass of wine during marathon training, but it will be not before a session, and I'll just have one, but it doesn't stop me socializing, and I'll still go out for dinner and with friends and everything. But I think it's just it's about like finding the balance that works for you, and something that isn't so much sacrifice that you end up like hating training, because that's not going to get you results.
No,
as I just said in the previous question, like you need the fun element.
Yeah,
I think anyway. But what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, again, I'm not a big drinker either, but I think having fun with my friends and being able to socialize and like appreciate that you can still have a fun, good time makes everything, it gives you perspective as well of like what's important. And I think knowing that I've had a really nice time with my friends then makes me in a really good mood for like my training, like a few days later. I don't know, it makes me a happier person. Yeah. Just to appreciate that I've got these great friends, I can have a nice time with them, but also I work really hard on this other thing that I take really seriously as well. So I think, it's about timing it right, where you're not like having loads of drinks the night before an important session or a race, but just finding that balance that works for you. And I think it's just also reminding yourself that having a couple drinks is not going to make you unfit. It's not going to be detrimental to your training. It's not going to undo all the hard work that you've done. You know, if it's going to make you have a good time, I think it's only a good thing, as long as you don't take it like completely to the extreme where you aren't sleeping or recovering.
And probably if you're at a level where you're really stressing about having one drink, that stress is going to be more detriment than just go and have a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, all about balance for sure.
One specifically for you, what's your rest day like? Do you do nothing, or is it more of an active rest day?
So for me, and this is kind of the approach I've tend to have had with most of my coaches, and definitely my coach at the moment, is we don't schedule in like a weekly rest day. It's not like every Friday you're not going to run. For him, he very much trusts that I tell him how I'm feeling. So I'm a high mileage runner. If I can reduce my mileage on some days, have super easy days, that really helps me recover rather than not running at all. I can sometimes then feel actually a bit more heavy-legged, sluggish. I will 100% rest if I'm really run down, really exhausted. If I'm ill, then I'm honest with my coach. I'll be like, I feel like shit. So, and he's like, take 5 days off. Like, he very much encourages it because he knows if I say that, then wow, she needs this rest. So yeah, I think it's just being really honest with yourself, knowing your own body, and not comparing yourself to others, because I know plenty of athletes where they structure in a weekly rest day or one every 2 weeks, and that really works for them in terms of to recover, reset. But yeah, just you've got to do what's right for you in the way that you're going to get the most out of your training, and making sure that you do recover, because that's the most
recovery
important.
is key.
It is. Okay, what are your favorite trainers?
Oh, good question. I think after Chicago Marathon, I'm going to have to say my race trainers.
Oh, they look so cool.
They were cool, and I definitely feel like they helped me go faster. So they now have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, and there were so many Puma runners that ran so well in them, so I can trust that they're good.
Yeah, they are. They're bouncy.
Love that. Your going out shoes.
They're also probably the highest heels I own. So yeah, they could be my going out shoes too.
Brilliant.
And what are yours?
So recently, mine have changed because you were so kind to introduce me to some Puma shoes, which I'd never tried before. And this is why we have sponsored athletes, because then you're promoting the brand, and I may have never tried them if I didn't know you. So
and you're converted.
I am converted because I have been very loyal to Nike shoes in the past. Yes. But yeah, they are the Magnify 2.
Which actually I haven't even had a pair, so you're lucky.
Yeah,
you've got them before me.
They're like an everyday mileage shoe. They're just really bouncy. It's like, you know, if your legs feel a bit tired after a session, they're just so responsive, and they don't, you don't feel like you're slamming your feet into the ground, which I think you can get with some of them. You feel like you can still sort of bounce along and just, enjoy running.
Well, I feel like I've done my job.
Yes, you absolutely have.
If you could give one piece of advice to a newbie runner, what would it be?
Okay, I feel quite passionately about this because I see a lot of people trying to get into running, and they want to get faster, they want to get better, and so they end up, for every run, they go out and run their fastest, and they think I guess it would work at the beginning, but that's not an enjoyable way of running. You're just going to get so tired and so fatigued. So I think it's about finding the enjoyment in running and the right structure. So finding maybe a plan that will give you a mix of different, like a variety of things. So you've got your easy runs, your longer runs, your intervals, and that's actually going to help you progress longer term, and it's going to be way more enjoyable. And just like finding nice routes where you can enjoy the scenery rather than having your head down, like trying to kill yourself every run, which would honestly make me hate running if I had to do that every run.
Yeah, and it's something that actually we were talking about this with Ben, founder of the Runna app, a few weeks ago, weren't we? that is exactly the approach that most people seem to take. And perhaps to us we've been running for a while, having a plan and doing different runs at different speeds seems quite obvious. But I say that, and then I think back to when I started running, and I used to go out and do a 5K, and I used to time myself.
Yeah.
And carry my phone with my stopwatch and see how quickly I could run a 5K. And, that would include like stopping at traffic lights and stuff, but I would still have to like try and beat my time from the last time before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I feel like is such a game changer. And well, as Ben's found with his success at Runna, it helps a lot of people not only get on the bandwagon, but stay on the bandwagon.
Yeah, for sure. And just like trying to explain the importance of easy runs to people, because it's kind of like, it seems counterintuitive, right? Like, you're going to be a better runner if you sometimes run slow.
Yes.
And it just seems strange, but that's where you recover. You're still adapting because you've got time on feet. Your muscles are still working, but you're recovering from those harder sessions and then improving your endurance.
And then able to go harder in the fast sessions.
Okay, so as you have just landed in rainy, grey, cold England, the next question is very relevant. So with the winter months on the horizon, how do you stay motivated to run outside?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a winter person. I really dread it, and I do try to get away to some sunshine, so I kind of cheat. But I think a big thing for me is finding people to go out with, because then I don't have the option of procrastinating and staying in the warm. You have to just get out. And I have to say, when you're out, it's never normally as bad as you think it's going to be, even when it's cold and a bit rainy.
Yeah.
Once you're going, it's okay.
Yeah.
So that would be my top tip. Find a buddy and just...
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Hold each other accountable. What about you? How do you still get out?
I think that's a really good one. And I think just making sure you're prepared for the weather. Like, we're in England, it's not going to be like minus 50 degrees, you can dress for the weather. Yes, you might feel cozy and warm inside, but like you say, once you're out, if you're appropriately dressed, like, you're going to be fine. I think once you start running, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm out. And just trusting that you've done it so many times before, you can do this run. So just knowing that you're going to feel good for it afterwards. But yeah, I do completely understand it. It's so much harder to get out the door when it's dark and cold and rainy.
Yeah, but I don't know. Sometimes though, I do feel like you feel really badass when you go out and it's horrible weather. Yeah. And no one else is out and you're like, I'm still out.
Yeah.
I'm really hardcore.
I think when it's rainy, it's quite like freeing sometimes.
Yeah.
You're just like, woof.
Okay, funniest or most embarrassing moment or memory you have relating to running?
It's so strange because, like, I wonder how many runs I've done in my life, and I feel like there aren't, like, my running life seems quite boring, but there is one story that does stand out, which is probably the most interesting thing that's happened to me on a run. So this was quite a few years ago now, and I was in Australia on the Gold Coast, and I went out for a run, just exploring like the local neighborhood, minding my own business. And yeah, I was just on like a residential road or something. And I suddenly, in the corner of my eye, see like this something approaching me, and then like feel these claws in my scalp. And I was like, what the hell's happened? I saw a bird fly away, and I was like, oh my God, like this bird's like tried to attack me.
Oh God.
So then obviously like adrenaline, I start speeding up, like trying to get away from the area. And then it happened again. And I go back, like I finished my run, like I was fine. I wasn't bleeding or anything. It was just like scratched. But I go back and tell my friends this story, and I was like telling them it was this massive eagle has attacked me. And like I was convincing myself it was a huge eagle. It looked so big, but later discovered by asking a very knowledgeable man in one of the wildlife sanctuaries that it was the season where the Australian magpies, which I have to say are not the same as English magpies. They are not these little small ones. They are way bigger.
They're big.
Google them.
Magpies on steroids.
Yeah, it was the season where like they had the little babies in the nest. So they're like protecting it, and they clearly saw me as a threat to their nest, which was probably 10 times taller than me. Like I was gonna steal their little baby
you do look
birds.
threatening, Steph. I mean,
Yeah. So I honestly think that's probably the most like weirdest thing that's happened on a run for me, because all of my other runs seem to be pretty mundane, really.
I know it's amazing how much running we do and how uneventful it seems to be. But hey, guess that's kind of a good thing.
When you think of 10 years from now, what role does your running play?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, given the way that women in marathon running are going at the moment, I'd like to think I'd still be running in 10 years' time. I mean,
And
it's
at a high
just
level.
incredible. Yeah, it's incredible to see how fast people are still going at 40. I mean, what did Sinead Diver run? Like 2:22, I want to say.
Yeah, well, she set the Australian record, and she was like 45 when she did that, which is
Just-
incredible.
Yeah, that is just mind-blowing. So I would like to say still competing at a high level. And I think just going back to my why, feeling like I've taken as many cool opportunities and just found the open doors and gone down some cool paths with it, I think. I don't really know what those are at the moment, but definitely I think there are just so many things that I'm open to trying with it and exploring.
Yeah, that's so good.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same. Like, there's no reason why I wouldn't be running in 10 years' time and still trying to get the most out of myself. I think, like you just said, there are so many people still competing at such a high level. And I feel like I've still got so much more to come that it's quite comforting knowing that there's not an age limit that's close yet, like I still potentially have like 15 years to progress.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting to me. So it doesn't feel like you need to, you can take these baby steps forward and keep progressing rather than like, oh my God, I've got a year left to be the best I ever can be. And then I need to stop competing. So I think, yeah, in 10 years, I would definitely still like to be kind of getting the most out of myself, and, well, hopefully still enjoying it.
Do you think, can you see your races changing from, longer distances or trail or anything? Is that something you want to try?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've kind of always said to myself, like, I want to see what I can do in the marathon first, get to a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like it might not be like my peak marathon time, but it's like at a point where I'm like, yes, I'm really, really happy with this marathon time. Then explore like potentially ultra as well, just because I feel like I really enjoy really long runs, and I feel like my body can kind of hold a pace for a long time. So it's a bit of an unknown. Like maybe I would actually be completely crap at them, but how do you
Fun to
know?
try.
But the combination, like where you say trail as well, because I had the cross country background, actually if you combine like the really long distances with off road, that sounds quite exciting.
That is a trail ultra.
Yeah, so you never know.
I get asked this question all the time. What do you think about when you're running?
Yeah, interesting. So I think it depends what type of run. On my easy runs, when I'm just on my own, I think about like absolutely everything that's going on at the moment, but I could go out with a really like congested brain and loads of thoughts spinning, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I might be stressed from work, or I'm trying to like work something out. But I know like a few minutes into this run, I'll be thinking and everything starts to make sense. I can like order my thoughts. I'll come up with a solution. I feel like I can kind of like solve the world's problems on a run, and I am guaranteed to finish that run with the answer I've been looking for, or also just having perspective on things. Like sometimes I'll be really stressed before a run and be like, I don't have time for this run. Like I've got too much to do. And then you go for the run and you're like, that really doesn't matter. Like I'm enjoying this run. Like that thing I'm stressing about it really doesn't matter. And I'll go back and I'll be like, that's so nice. Like I've kind of got a plan of action and just got a sense of perspective. So that's definitely like my problem solving thoughts on easy runs. And then in sessions, I don't really think of anything. It's kind of, I'm definitely not worrying about anything going on in life. It's very much focus on in the moment I'm in. Little thoughts enter your mind sometimes, like, and you try and shut them out. Like you might think, oh, this one hurts. Oh, I want this rep to end. But it's very simple thoughts and you kind of shut them off. So very minimal in sessions.
Yeah, I'm very similar.
What about you?
Easy running, you're so right. It is such a good problem solving technique.
Yeah.
And if I've got too many things on my to-do list, I have to go for a run, because then I know I come back, I know exactly how I'm going to do it, and I can crack through my to-do list so much better. So yeah, easy runs are definitely my like problem solving and set myself up for the day. Sessions also similar. I actively try not to think too much. And I also use sessions as a way to practice like mental strategies for a race day. Yeah. So which a lot of it is trying to not think too much. But also when you're in the really tough parts of the session, just trying different strategies to get yourself out of a hole. Yeah. So I kind of go into it with I guess a bit of exploration as to what things might work for me on race day and test them all out.
Yeah, I've definitely been doing that recently, and then you kind of get to race day knowing you're prepared because that worked in that session and I got through that session and it went well, so I can try that again.
Which also gives you an extra boost because you're like, I know I came out of it well and I did the session well, so it's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so another one kind of relating to sessions and easy runs. How much slower are your easy runs compared to sessions, and how wide are your range of paces that you run?
I have a pretty wide range of paces. My easy runs are generally pretty easy. I probably run, I would say on average, between 7-minute miling to 7:30 for easy runs. And then my sessions are, I guess, marathon pace and quicker, depending on what they are. Some of them are a lot quicker if I'm doing short track sessions.
And what's your marathon pace, just so we can gauge the range there?
So about 5:30-minute miling.
So that's just under, apparently.
So that will be for tempos, and then obviously on the track for shorter reps it'll be way quicker.
Sub 5, yeah.
But easy runs, I just don't look at my watch, and I really do try to go and feel. I think if anything, if I start running a bit quicker, I'll actively slow myself down, but I never actively speed myself up. Yeah. Easy runs. Long runs are a bit different because I do them more steady. So around 6:30 down to 5:50s, something in that range. But
get them done quicker.
Yeah. And also I use them as a bit more of a session than a easy long run.
Yeah, makes sense.
Are you similar?
I am similar. So, with easy runs, I just don't look at my watch at all. Like, it's an easy run, so I'm using it to relax. Like, I'm doing all my problem solving. I'm not worrying about pace. Like it depends. Some days I'll be tired, so I'll be running slower, maybe to like 7:45 to 8-minute miling. But some days I feel great, and it'll be a bit quicker, like 7:15. But it usually averages about 7:30 miling, like if I was to average it. But I don't fixate on the pace at all. And then sessions, same concept. So, my marathon pace is about 6-minute miling, so that would be kind of the lower end. And then it is obviously faster than that for shorter reps. So it'll go towards like 5-minute miling for short reps. But so it's a big range. But I think maybe it's important to highlight how big that range is for us, and how it's okay to like not worry about your pace on those easy runs, and you're not proving a point.
Of them, I think. The purpose is recovery. So whatever is going to make you feel better the next day and ready to go for your sessions. Yeah. That's what the pace is. I actually watched this documentary on one of the training groups in Kenya, and the men do their double easy run, so the one in the evening, they're literally going like 9-minute miling.
Yeah.
I think, well, God, if they're doing that, obviously they're a hell of a lot quicker than me, and they're running a lot slower on their double.
Yeah.
I think their run in the morning they do a bit quicker, but
yeah,
it just shows, recovery is what those runs are for. So make it recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we've got time for maybe one last question, and this one has to be for you. If you could listen to one Taylor Swift song for a whole marathon, what would it be?
I absolutely love this question, and I really wish that I could listen to Taylor Swift songs during the marathon, but unfortunately you won't see me wearing headphones when I'm racing. But if I was to pick one that I had to repeat the whole time, then there's going to be a bit of a strategy towards this. I would pick All Too Well 10-minute version, because as the name suggests, it is 10 minutes long. So you can kind of break down the marathon into these 10-minute chunks. Like if I was going for, say, 240, then you've got 16 songs. Hopefully
sounds
less than
like
16
nothing.
songs. Yeah, I know. That sounds really easy. And then once you've done one, you're like, okay, I've only got this many left. And so I think that would be a good way to break it down.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like it would make it a lot easier. I really miss the days where I used to wear my earphones. I have to say, I used to love it. My first London Marathon and my second one, actually, had my iPod all the way around with my cables and everything, cables attached. Yeah.
Just flailing around.
Yeah. Loved it.
Wow, love that. Okay, I'm going to ask you the same question, though. You've got to answer.
Taylor Swift song. It would have to be something really upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Ready for It. And actually, I got asked a similar question of what song would I have as like my theme tune for walking into Chicago Marathon. And I think because it's an American marathon, and when I was some of the Puma girls are big Taylor Swift fans, so I feel like whenever I'm in America, my Taylor Swift listening goes well up. So it just felt very fitting, and I said Ready for It because it is just such a, it'd be such a good song to start a marathon
I love
with.
that song. Good Reputation era.
So good. So yeah, I think I would choose that, although it would be a lot.
Quite repetitive.
Yeah, it would be very repetitive.
But yeah, it'll fire you up. That'd be good. Can I just ask you one more question? Okay. Right. I know Rose said we'd have one more question, but there is one more that I really want to ask, because I do get asked it loads, so I do want to know your answer to this. Is it better to be shorter or taller when you're running longer distances?
I love that you get asked this. That's so funny. Out of interest, what do people ask? Because I've never been asked this.
The question people ask me, and it tends to be people that they're not really into running, and they're just maybe interested in my passion, and they obviously know I'm quite on the shorter end of the scale. And they just say, how do you run so fast when you've got such small legs? I have been asked it multiple times, and every time I'm a bit taken aback, because I'm kind of like, why couldn't I run fast with short legs? Have you not seen the Kenyans and the Ethiopians and running fast? Like, just because you have longer legs, people that are taller could still shuffle with like little short steps, whereas I might have a long stride, or like I can turn my legs over quicker. So anyway, I tend to just be like, I don't know, I just do. Just
a miracle, a small miracle.
I'm just a miracle. But what do you actually think?
I mean, I would say it's all to do with your, I guess, height to stride length to power. It's a whole ratio. So height is only one thing, but actually, as you say, if you've got like long stride length, if you've got the power to cover more ground, then you can run quick. I don't necessarily think height determines whether you're fast or not. I mean, as you say, the Kenyans, a lot of them are tiny, and actually I stand on start lines, and I feel I'm a good like head above most of the marathon runners. But then Paula Radcliffe was 5'7" as well. So I did not necessarily. I think the majority of marathon runners in particular are smaller, but I'm not sure that necessarily is what dictates speed.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Certainly,
I don't think you need to be a specific height or anything like that. Like you have so many incredible runners that are all like different heights and shapes and everything. So yeah, there's not one body type that makes you a fast runner for sure. It's so much that goes into it. Yeah,
I think especially in the long distances, perhaps with the sprints, you do have to be, very strong, very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you kind of either got it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think marathon running, any body type can do it. I believe anyway.
Yeah, you see it anyway. Like you see so many different body types, and but it is funny because we did discuss the other day how distance running, you can have a range of body types, but with track and field, you already mentioned sprints, like maybe a bit more specific, but field events as well.
Yeah, Steph, you're not going near the high jump, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I guess, it does depend on the discipline, but I would say for long distances, like very, very inclusive sport we are.
Yeah. So I think that has brought us to the end of our season 1 listener questions. Didn't get through quite all of them, but we will save them till the last episode of season 2.
Yep.
But thank you very much, listeners, for sending them in. That's been so fun answering them all. And we can't wait to do it all again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Season 2, bring it on.
If you have been loving it, then don't forget to like the podcast on Spotify or Apple and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss anything. Thanks for joining us for 5 Miles Easy.
See you soon.